What's up? Tonight we have another bulletproof dispute letter training, and we're going to find out what's wrong with this letter because you need to be able to look at your letter and figure out how you can increase your ability and probability of getting results. So let's get right to this. And what I want for you to do is use the comment section to tell me how you would change this specifically. All right, so the top of it is pretty straightforward. Name, address, date of birth, social, right? Then we have our date and the bureau. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this, and together, you and I are going to fix this letter so that we can increase our probability of results. Because remember, the longer you dispute, the harder it is to get results. So every single letter that we send out needs to be targeted. Every single word on our letter needs to have a purpose, right? So let's read this first paragraph together. I need you to remove these accounts that I found that are wrong. Section 1681 states that you must perform an investigation, and if it comes back as unverified, keyword unverified, it needs to be promptly removed. I also need to see your contracts that you're required for each account, and I am disputing all of my accounts because they are wrong. You have 30 days to respond, or my intention is to take you to court, and I will. Now let's pause right there real quick. Look at this part right here. Let's start with the bottom part of this first, and let's go grab a pen, and we're gonna make it purple. And just so you know, you can pause this right here, go down into the description and pull this up if you want to, because you can do the same thing that I am doing right now by marking this letter up. Okay, so back to this. Let's look at this last part first. Okay, you have 30 days to respond, or my intention is to take you to court, and I will. Let me just tell you right there, it is illegal to state that your intention is to sue someone unless your intention is truly to take them to court. That is definitely number one. Number two is they have 30 days to respond, but, and this is a huge selling point for so many companies, so I want you to listen to my words carefully. Not only is it going to state in their system that they did respond, but most of the time they're not going to, okay? Because their entire prerogative is to get you to stop disputing, okay? So while they may have 30 days to send you a response, that response might just be to state that they received your dispute, or that they require more time, or they're just not going to do anything at all. They do not have to remove your negative items in 30 days. Okay, that is only to send you a response. And 9 times out of 10, again, it's going to state that they did. So let's move on. Okay, so I need you to remove these accounts that I found that are wrong. Okay, so look at this. Why is it incorrect? What is it inaccurate? Is it because you pulled your report on identity IQ or credit check total or privacy guard or my score IQ or whatever and saw that you had multiple addresses that were incorrect or whatever? You need to tell them what it is that you found wrong and why you are writing this letter. Now, here's the next thing. Section 1681 states that you must perform an investigation. If it comes back as unverified, it needs to be promptly removed. Okay, so putting any sort of laws in here is not going to do you anything. Unless you actually are an attorney, this is really not going to do anything. So you are not an attorney, okay? And forgive my writing, I am writing on my Wiggum tablet and I'm on my screen. Okay, so you are not an Audi, okay? So anywho, that's what it says. You're not an attorney, and you're not going to teach the bureaus anything that they didn't already know. That's not your job. Your job is to write a letter that's going to get results. So I would completely and totally nix this entire section about law, okay? So what your first paragraph needs to state is very, very simply the W's, okay? Why you are writing the letter, what you want them to do, and that is it. I found negative items on my credit report that are reported inaccurately, and I would like for you to investigate them. Here are the accounts. That is the bare bones that need to be in that first paragraph. You should not be putting any laws in here. You should not be stating you're going to sue them. You shouldn't be doing any of that stuff, okay? So we're going to take all this stuff out, and obviously that just leaves, I also need to see your contracts that you're required for each of these accounts. Now, let's pause right there as well. Now, most people think that section 609 has to do with contracts. And I might get some hate comments on here, but I know what I'm talking about. This is what I've been doing for almost 11 years professionally. And Section 609 has absolutely nothing to do with contracts and everything to do with the consumer disclosure. The consumer disclosure is literally your credit report. That thing that you see when you sign up for Identity IQ, that is your consumer disclosure. And it includes a summary of your negative items and your positive items and your on time and late and all that kind of stuff, right? So when you are using Section 609, you are literally stating that you want them to remove negative items from your credit report because you have the ability by law to request your credit report. What? That makes absolutely no sense, okay? And you could say what you want, all that kind of stuff, but if you took 2 seconds to just go look this up yourself, you would say, oh my God, I've been doing this wrong this entire time. Now, that's okay, because guess what? There is a way to remove these, and that is by using factual-based disputes, and we're going to look at the Gero formula again, and we're going to go and write out how your dispute reasons should be reported using the action, justifier, element, reason, and facts, okay? So let's go back up here. We're going to get rid of this part as well. And as you can see, that literally just leaves, I need you to remove these accounts that I found that are wrong, and we're going to correct that too. I would like you to remove these accounts that are reported inaccurately. And again, I am writing on my screen. This is a totally different Wiggum tablet. So the last time that I did this, obviously my writing was a little bit better on here. So again, I apologize. That says inaccurately, okay? And we can even, yeah, let's just leave that. So we're gonna just put the word inaccurately on here. Inaccurately. I found there are inaccurate. Sorry. Inaccurate and need to be removed, okay? So that's literally all you have to do. So this wrong should say inaccurate. Now, here's the part where we talk about our accounts, okay? So let's just, you know what? Let's go and put another one right here. So your first paragraph should literally just say, I would like for you to investigate these inaccurate items and remove them from my credit report. That's it. That's what your first paragraph should say. Now let's go and grab the pen again, and we're going to choose green. Okay, so here's another thing. When you are disputing your actual accounts, let's just say for American Express, okay? Now, Section 609 courses and templates tell you to use the word unverified. You're not going to use unverified. Metro 2 says inaccurate, okay? The bureaus only care about inaccurate negative items, and that is the reason that's going to be removed, okay? What we're going to do is we are going to nix the unverified. You should never say unverified, especially when it's dealing with a bank. Now, here's the reason why. They are not, just as we already went over, required to send you any documentation at all, stating anything, showing your signatures or anything like that. So when you waste your 30 to 45 days asking for things that either don't exist or they're not going to give you, then obviously, just as I said, you wasted your time. So what we want to do instead, and we're instead going to say, delete this account because I disputed it 45 days ago and the required notice of dispute is missing. Now, if you don't know what that is, Section 623 states that when you dispute an account, the bureaus and the creditors actually are required within 30 days from the date they received your dispute to enter a notice letting other furnishers know that you disputed the account. So if it's not there, it's a violation of Section 623 and the account must be removed. Here's the thing with medical. You can most definitely ask for validating documentation, but I wouldn't word it like this. Show me a contract with my wet signature. That just, in no universe does that get you any results, okay? So medical collections are a different breed. What you want to do is, and you can go check out my other videos on the validation of debt method. There are 4 letters in this series for the collector directly, but you want to reach out to the actual collector as long as it is not a debt buyer like Portfolio Recovery or Midland or whatever. And you're going to ask for these validating documentation or this validating documentation directly from them. You are then going to dispute with the bureaus and state very simply that you have no idea what that is and you want to see the documentation that proves the account. Otherwise, delete it. So that is how you take care of medical. Now, if we go down and look at Santander, I'm going to let you know that trying to use a lawsuit without knowing what the lawsuit is or how it works is not going to remove that account. What you want to do is either A, look for stuff in the hierarchy, such as the date last active, the date last paid, stuff like that. So we have the DOLA, the DOLP, notice of dispute, failure to enter the excuse me, failure to update the status update date, stuff like that. Okay. Now, you can very, very simply state that, the date last active shows 3 different dates, and then specify those dates and then ask for the deletion. Or you can go and look for first delinquency date. If it's, obviously it's going to be the oldest state that you did pay on time, and then ask for deletion. You can check out the payment history and look to see if there are like a ton of late payments in the payment history, or if there's activity after the close date, so on and so forth. So there's tons of ways that you can remove accounts, but unless you actually know that there is a lawsuit and it most definitely applies to your account, you're not going to want to use the whole, according to the lawsuit, or there's a lawsuit and, because of this, remove it. Now, for Citi, and we're down here, Citibank, these 3 late payments between January 2020 and March 2020 are wrong. I paid on time. Now, while you may think that this is kind of accurate to state this, I really wouldn't. I would choose one date, the oldest date, and I would choose the oldest date, and I would very simply state that I paid on time on January 2020, and this account needs to be updated to paid on time, never late. Okay. Now, if that doesn't work, then you're going to go to February. If that doesn't work, now you're going to go to March. If that doesn't work, you can then go after independent investigation, because obviously they're not going to have documentation. And one thing that you want to know for late payments, and I'm going to type this out so you can actually see it, is going to be a bank statement belonging to the data furnisher proving timeliness. And obviously they are not going to provide this documentation to you. It's confidential. Would you just give your bank statement to anybody? No, obviously you're not going to. So because of this, it means that late payments cannot be legally verified, and therefore the account needs to be updated to paid on time, never late. Now, this may be a little bit convoluted, it might be kind of confusing, but I promise you this is magic. I use this all the time. Using factual based disputes is literally the only way that you should be disputing. Now, I'm not going to say that my way is the best way and all that kind of stuff, but what I can say is that for me, and this is all I've been teaching for the last 7 years or whatever, for me, this is what gets results for me, from my clients, and this is something that maybe you can try. Now, a lot of the times people say, oh, well, I tried this and it didn't work and all that kind of stuff, but if you are not doing it the right way, then factual based disputes are not going to help you. All right, so let's look at the last part of this, and let's go grab a pen, if I can click on this, and we're going to choose black. Okay, Congress states that you are required to give me copies of signed documentation, so unless you can send it, all these accounts need to be removed. This is not true. Congress does not state that they are required to give copies of signed documentation. And so they're not going to remove it just because you state this, okay? And adding in some ambiguous law is also not going to help you here, such as Section 1681 or 609 or any of that, okay? Looking forward to seeing this within 30 days. No, all they have to do is give you a response, which brings me to the last part of this section. Now, what you always want to remember is that when a company is telling you that you're going to see results within 30 to 45 days, just because by law, the bureaus are required to respond within this time, what they're not telling you is that it's exactly what I mentioned at the beginning of this video. All they have to do is respond. And this can be as simple, your dispute has been received. Okay. That doesn't mean that they're investigating. It doesn't mean that you're going to get results. It doesn't mean anything other than your dispute has been received. Okay. So do not believe this, okay? The only place that this exists is on social media, all right? And you've heard me say this in other videos, so I'm not going to go into it, but let's go down into the next section. So For the bulletproof training, you're going to want to understand the Gero formula, and this formula allowed me to get over 20,000 deletions in 2020 alone. Now, if you look at this example account, or this example reason, I should say, it says, I disputed this and you didn't correct this account and you need to remove it. Well, unfortunately, there's only an action. So the action is to delete it, meaning to remove it. There's no justifier, meaning because you're not telling them why the account isn't correct. You're not telling them what element you're disputing, so what isn't correct, and you're not telling them, again, the actual reason for the dispute, and you're not giving them the facts. So why, if you were only telling them to delete an account, would you think that you're going to get results from this? The actual way that you should be disputing this would be to, and I'm going to give you a better reason right here. So a better way to say this would be something along the lines of remove this account for inaccuracy because the payment history lists 7 late payments after the account was closed, okay? So this dispute reason does include the action, justifier, element, reason, and fact. So let's go point them out. So the action is going to be remove this account, right, for inaccuracy. Because is the justifier, right? So the justifier is going to be because. The payment history is the element. So now we have the payment history. That's going to be element. Payment history lists 7 late payments after the account was closed. And that's going to be the reason. Okay. Now, as far as facts go, that also goes right into here. Okay. So this is the way that you want to be writing your disputes. And you can even add on to this the actual dates from this date up until this date. But for this type of dispute reason, it's actually not required, okay? So this is the way that you want to write your disputes for results. Now, if you want to go and check this out yourself and kind of browse through this and see why this would work better than what's actually written on this page, then use the link in the description. And as I mentioned, use the comment section and let me know how you would change this letter for results. Now, use the link at the top of your screen if this is just something that is not going to work out for you and you don't want to do yourself. Schedule a call with me and I will see if I can do this for you so that you can get the fastest results and the highest score, okay? So I hope you have a great rest of your week. I hope you had a great weekend. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss a video that's going to change the course of your financial future. All right. So